Sneakers and Cleats, the podcast.
Hello. Welcome back to the Sneakers Cleats podcast. This is, there was no welcome back. Figure I'd change it up. This is Thursday, October 2nd, episode 231. Matt Roy, Chuck Miketinac, Luis, Bob, everybody here for the ride. As always, subscribe to the YouTube channel, both News 4 Fox SA. Download, rate, review the podcast version wherever you get your podcasts if you would like to. We would like you to. Chuck, what's going on? You had quarter moon this morning?
We did, yes. Topics were many. Topics were plentiful. We were spitballing all over the place. And now we'll come over here and spitball.
You talked about the WNBA.
Talked about the WNBA.
I can guarantee you we won't do that here. Unfortunately.
Give us a reprieve from that, huh?
Yes, absolutely.
WNBA, do you know who's even in the finals?
No. I got to tell you, I don't.
The Aces, as always, it seems like.
Aces.
At least in this decade.
This
and the Phoenix Mercury.
You got aces in the decade?
Yeah. Ace of Spades. Ace of Spades.
I'm now realizing.
Who doesn't love Lemmy?
I did the whole podcast rundown this morning. I realized I didn't update my upper portion, so I'm just going to do this off the top of my head. So we're going to talk Spurs today. Is defense the way that they win a championship? We've heard all offseason long defense is going to be the focal point this year. We heard it from Wemby that it's non-negotiable. We heard from Wemby Kornet yesterday. Or Tuesday after the first day of practice. Talk a little bit about the Spurs and how they're trying to model their game after OKC and how OKC just won a championship, and I'd argue with the best defense in the league.
Statistically, yes, they did.
Talk a little bit of the Cowboys here and the divorce incoming by Trevon Diggs and the Cowboys. What's going on with those two entities there? So we'll talk a little bit about Shoddy versus Trevon here. Plus, the Major League Baseball postseason started this week. Do a little quick post-mortem of Chuck and I's picks from earlier this season. You guys I'm sure you guys will get a kick out of that.
Yeah, you'll be able to throw dirt on our graves.
Yeah, we're already doing it. We're already 6 feet under. We're just waiting for everyone else to bury us here. And then we got some TNL. This is a Thursday Night Lights Thursday, so we got a review of our TNL top 10 plus. Look over our TNL matchup of the week. We got the Gucci Bowl. What's Gucci? Gucci Bowl tonight.
Everything's Gucci tonight.
Churchill and Clark. So that'll be fun. Real quick, area code 231. Give me a guess.
Philadelphia.
I'll tell you it's in the
Bangor, Maine.
Northern part of the United States. Central northern part of the United States.
Mankato, Minnesota.
Not actually that far off. It's northern Michigan.
Really? The Upper Peninsula, eh?
Upper Peninsula.
That's where my dad was born, in Escanaba.
What's it called? Waukegan?
Waukegan, Illinois?
No, it's something else. Anyway, yeah, northern part.
Waukesha.
Waukesha. All right, so let's get to the Spurs here first. They allowed the 7th most points in the NBA last year, but it was even worse once Wemby went out, obviously. Once he went out after the All-Star break, the numbers plummeted. He was on his way to being the Defensive Player of the Year. Can't win it with only 50-some-odd games played, so he didn't win it last year. But if you ask anybody, if you heard any of the press conferences from Monday or Tuesday, everybody has just said defense, 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 defense. Defense is going to be our identity. Defense is going to be how we win games. Just listen to what Luke Kornet and Wemby had to say this week, and you'll kind of get the gist.
It's definitely going to be a place where we can build our identity and want to, have that like hitting the ground running and to just really, push ourselves on that side of the floor to really kind of establish ourselves as being a great defensive team. And we obviously have some great individual defenders that can really help lift that, and obviously Victor being a big part of that. But I think the intensity on that side of the ball will really help, dictate kind of how we play game to game and just be the foundation for how we kind of play, especially in the early part of the season.
My goal is to set standards, we've started to set them in here in the gym, but from the first game of the season, in preseason, this is a non-negotiable, it's not something, you can't do if you want to be a part of our team, and we're going to hold each other accountable. We know the coach is going to hold us accountable. And it doesn't matter your status. Defense is non-negotiable.
It's not a strong stance that you usually hear from Wemby. Usually he's kind of differential when it comes to passing it off to Mitch or passing it off to Pop when Pop was there. or passing it out to the upper management. Saying you can't be on this roster unless you play defense is something that you usually don't hear from Wemby, and I kind of like the tone that he's setting on the first day of camp.
And I like what Luke Kornet said, which is we have good individual defenders. They had good individual defenders last year. Can they learn to play defense like basketball teams in the modern era have learned to play offensively with a lot of motion? Like, you've got to be able to rely on each other, right? A guy gets beat off the dribble. Of course, you got Victor down there on the block with that humongous wingspan, incredible height, length, all of it. He, just looking at him when his arms are out, will change the way other teams have to attack the rim. So how do you, as a group, play well around him? That's going to be the fascinating thing, because talk is cheap, right? I mean, this is by all accounts, has been a Popovich team forever and a day. It's always been about defense. And so when you see that the Spurs were ranked 25th in that regard last year, to your point, Victor was out a good chunk of those games. But the bottom line is, if you want to make the leap as a team this year, the easiest way to do it is learn how to play good defense. Look at all the top teams in the league last year. Look at Orlando. They were the number 2 defensive team last year. Who was the team that kind of took everybody by surprise last year in making that big leap from perennial doormat to, obviously respectability? And it was because they flipped everything on the defensive end.
Yeah, and you look at teams like OKC who won that championship with defense, and how did they play such good defense? They had a rim stopper in Chet Holmgren, and then they had big, versatile defenders on the wing, a Lou Dort, and you have to have a number of those guys to play good defense, and that's what Brian Wright has said all along. We want big, rangy guys who can play out on the wing, who can be versatile down low, and they finally got the guy, or the guys, if you want to count Kelly Olynyk as well, in Luke Kornet, that can supplement Victor. When Victor's on the court, obviously their defense is much better, and their offense, they're just a better team, obviously. But when he went off the court, they were lost defensively because they didn't have someone at the rim. Yes, Luke Kornet and Wemby can play together, and we saw some images from practice and some videos from practice the other day that was them playing offense together with a little bit of a pick and roll. But the main thing that Luke Kornet is going to be able to do is give Wemby some time to go to the bench and not worry about the team going ape crap on defense. So Luke Kornet is another rim defender that they needed. And so now that they have another rim defender for when Wemby goes to the bench, you have guys in the versatility and the depth on the outside where you can play individually but also still play together.
And, we saw this a lot last year, right? There's too many defensive breakdowns for the Spurs where teams are getting bunnies around the basket. There are ways to draw Victor out, and, these offenses are pretty sophisticated with ball movement and how crisp passes are, cross-court passes, everything that teams do to get wide open shots. There just has to be more guys committed during the 24-second shot clock. And, a guy gets beat off the dribble, there are rotations involved, and you got to make sure that guys are paying attention to everything that's going on and be committed during that 24 seconds to make sure that the other team doesn't get a great shot off. And then also, conversely, when they do get a shot off, you can't just stop there. You got to make sure that there are people in position to get a rebound.
And what do you need to play great defense? Mainly, you need great effort, and you need your team to be bought in together. And what it seems like, at least throughout the first week and throughout this offseason, has been because defense is the priority, these guys are all buying in together about the idea of playing individually together, if that makes any sense. They're playing – you have a Devin Vassell who's long and rangy and hasn't really tapped into how great of a defender he can be, in my opinion. Stephon Castle was great. Was a great defender last year. Dylan Harper – De'Aaron Fox can all be good defenders. Jeremy Sohan is one of the best defenders in the league, in my opinion. So if you combine all those guys and they all buy into one central idea of playing great defense and then figuring it out on the offensive end, you give yourself a baseline of greatness that you can try and fall back on, even if the shots aren't falling for Fox or Wemby or insert player here. You can play great defense and still hang around with some of the big boys.
Yeah, well said. But I think it goes another level too, right? They've had individually solid defensive players. Now, can they communicate with each other and really tighten things up. Because if you aren't, you're playing defense, you'll have, well, the Dallas Cowboys.
Yeah. God.
You've got
don't
great
need
individual
another.
defenders, but it's not happening for whatever reason right now, right? Got to communicate.
So, side note, did you see the pictures of, you mentioned Dallas and it just jogged my memory. Did you see the pictures of Anthony Davis at Media Day?
No.
He's apparently like 15 to 20 pounds heavier. And so everyone's like, what do they feed these guys in Dallas? Because Luka was fat when he was in Dallas. And now Anthony Davis, who they just traded for, is apparently fat. And Luka slimmed down when he went to L.A., and so did Anthony Davis. So where everyone's wondering what the hell people are feeding them in Dallas now, which is hilarious. I think that when you see, just to put a bow on this Spurs topic, when you see and hear that they're focusing on defense, it makes you like, they're trying to be OKC so bad. They're really trying to be
Nothing
OKC.
wrong with that.
No,
right?
there's not. They're holding the title right now, and they're going to be holding the title again very soon if I was to put some money on it.
Yeah, and, back in the day, it was OKC trying to be the Spurs.
Yeah,
So
so everything's cyclical here.
everything is. It all comes back home.
All right, let's talk about the Cowboys here for a couple. Actually, unless Bob, you got anything?
One important note here, I think it was Paul Sarzar said, Chuck Miketinac, you are the man.
You are the man.
Congratulations on that.
I like your tie
And
too.
Paul's on our payroll. Thank you, Paul. Nice to hear nice things. You're very kind. Thank you.
I like your tie as well.
Thank you very much. I'm not a big fan of the shirt.
You know,
You ever go to the store and you buy a shirt? It's on sale. Think it might look nice. You get it out of the wrapper and go, wow, I just bought one of those shirts that's supposed to go with the tuxedo, the rented tuxedos. So you don't mind giving it back.
Mm-hmm.
This is one of those shirts. And unfortunately, it was my only white shirt that wasn't at the cleaners. So, okay. I went too far and too long.
no,
on
I mean,
that.
I get it. I get it.
Not a fan of the shirt.
Still the man, though.
I mean, he is the
Thank
man.
you. Thank you, fellas.
He is the man.
Appreciate
All right, let's get to the Cowboys here for a couple
Checks
of
in the
minutes.
mail, Al. Checks in the mail.
Cowboys are playing the Jets coming off of their tie. The Jets coming off of their performance.
Yeah, it's bad there.
It doesn't get much worse. So Scott Van Pelt on the SV Pod does a segment called Poop Town, and the Jets are in Poop Town. The Jets are buying land in Poop Town. They're poop.
Crazy Town was already taken.
The Jets are just so bad. Like they best quote of the season so far was Breece Hall saying, "People shoot themselves in the foot, and instead we shoot ourselves in the head." Like you had like 11 or 12 penalties. You had 4 different turnovers they were like, okay, we're only down by 7 at halftime. You come out and you fumble the opening kickoff. Like it's so bad in New York. No matter who the coach is, no matter who the players are, the Jets just suck. That being said, the Cowboys have every opportunity and are the exact kind of team to let the Jets win this game.
I certainly hope not, because I think we talked about this earlier in the week, right? You wouldn't look at this game normally and go, must win. But it kind of is, based on what the Cowboys haven't done in terms of getting wins early on in the season. They got to get this game. Their offense really shocked, I think, a lot of people on Monday night that they were able to do that against the number one defense, to rack up those kind of yards, given how banged up and who the Cowboys were missing with 3 starters on offense. And then it might be a little thin again this week. But again, if you can't take advantage of what really is a horrible poop town situation in New York, then, I don't even want to know what kind of conversations we're having Monday about the Cowboys if they can't get this one.
We talk about this every week, though. The Cowboys they win games that they're not supposed to win. And I told you sitting here last Monday that the Cowboys were going to win that game against the Packers, and they were a second literally away from doing it.
Yeah, and you easily make the argument they were the better team.
Yeah, you could. I mean, not on defense, but actually you could make the argument that they were the better team on defense too.
Yeah.
But which is really sad when it comes to the Packers. But they lose games that they're not supposed to lose, and they win games they're not supposed to win. They weren't supposed to lose to the Bears. Sure enough, they got killed.
Yeah,
they could lose to the Jets.
But that's the NFL, right? I mean, this thing is built, got a salary cap, so that there's supposed to be parity. It's supposed to be 50-50 across the league. And, things just happen. I mean, do we think we'd be sitting here this far into the season talking about the Baltimore Ravens of all teams?
Being 1-3.
A team that is off to a really slow start and now they're banged up. I mean, It's just the way it is in the league. But again, I think that's the beauty of the NFL, right? Is that's why we're going to watch, because you never know what you might see. And then all things being equal, point spreads are by and large, they're one scores.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know why it seems like this in the NFL. Maybe I can't speculate it really, but it seems like whenever things are the worst that they can be, that team comes out and plays really well. In the Jets, I don't know how much worse it can get.
Correct. There's only up from here.
Yeah, you have your superstars that aren't playing well between Sauce Gardner and Garrett Wilson. I mean, is doing his best out there, but he's out on an island and his quarterback can't get him the ball. Justin Fields is meh at best. And your running back situation, you literally you had a 10-minute drive that was about to go into the end zone to go up 7-3 on that Monday night, and Braylon Allen fumbles the ball. And then on the very next kickoff, after the Dolphins come back and get a field goal, Braylon Allen's now out for 4 or 5 weeks because of a knee injury. So it's just everything that can go wrong will go wrong for the Jets, and apparently Aaron Glenn is railing on his team. But then you see the Cowboys, and you're like, they could still beat the Cowboys because the Cowboys are nothing special right now either. Well, so you just don't know.
Correct. And the Jets look pretty good in that opener against the Steelers. I mean, their defense obviously did not look good.
Defense hasn't looked good all season, which is a surprise given the people on that defense, the personnel, and the coach in Aaron Glenn.
Well, you hope that this is a get-right game for the Cowboys defense, right? Because the Cowboys defense looked pretty good the first week, and it's been really, really difficult, obviously, these last few weeks.
And part of the reason that the Cowboys defense has been bad is that Trevon Diggs has been bad, and Deron Bland has not been great, and their secondary has been mediocre at best, and that's putting it pretty lightly. The Trevon Diggs situation is getting more and more interesting by the day. We saw on Sunday, that was the first game in Trevon Diggs' career since his rookie year that he has not started a game, but he has played. He played 53 of the 80-some-odd snaps on defense. He ended up, but he sat out the first 2 series. And you saw Kyer Elam, and you saw Stewart, and you saw Deron Bland out there, and Deron Bland got beat for that first touchdown by Romeo Doubs. So it's a very odd situation. And then you hear this week what we're about to listen to, which was Shoddy saying we hold him to a high standard. So let's hear that.
The decision with Trevon was one that, like I talked about the other night, it was just, expect a lot from him and stay on him about his consistency. And I thought he played really well. I told you guys how proud I was of him.
A rough week. I guess coach holding me accountable, and, I accept it. It's cool. But, back on track this week, ready to work.
Okay, so if it's coach holding him accountable and demanding more from one of his stars, that's awesome. What I hated what Trevon said, which was, one, his demeanor and his body language of all of it, like, yeah, he did it, and I'm blah, blah, blah. I'm just going to take him. We're going to move on. I guess he was holding me accountable. Yeah, he was holding you accountable. What do you mean you guess? He just said that. So I don't understand. Like, obviously, it's not getting through the braids on his head to get into his brain, because he's not understanding that they've been saying this all off season. We need more from the guys that we're paying. Jerry said that. Brian has said that. Everyone who has talked about Trevon has said he's one of the leaders on this team because he's making $22 million a year. We need him to act like it. He wasn't at the offseason program, and he lost money, and they took money away from him because he was not at the offseason program for a long enough period of time. You're seeing things from Trevon Diggs that are not leadership potential and are not what your star players should be doing. And I think that an argument could be made that a divorce between those two is more likely than not at this point.
You bring up some really interesting points, and you make some key points too. It's kind of hard to argue to push back anything that you've said. I like Trevon Diggs. I mean, he's always accountable. Like, you have a rough game or a bad game, he's always front and center and will speak about it and, take ownership over what just transpired. So I wish I knew what was really going on, right? Where is the friction coming from? Why is there friction to begin with? But there does seem like there is some tension between him, the organization, maybe him and some other people in the locker room. I don't know. But obviously something isn't right. And, I always hate to, though, come back to the situation where we're pointing to one guy and saying, this is why the defense sucks, because obviously there's plenty of blame to go around, right? Yeah. Obviously, other than the defensive line at this point of the season, there's not a lot of roses that you can pass around to that entire defense.
I mean, the defense as a whole hasn't been good. Trevon just hasn't helped it. You need 11 guys to play well. On defense, it's kind of different than on offense because on offense, you need everyone to be playing well. On defense, one guy can make a play. And we saw some flashes from Trevon in that game against Green Bay. There was the bubble screen out to the right-hand side that he shot through, and he stopped behind the line of scrimmage. Some of those balls he picks off. He's picked off in the past, and it's that kind of playmaking that got him the contract that he has. He made that pick in the first half. And it was a pick that not a lot of players can make. It was impressive. He got his feet down. He got in front of the defender, and he was able to intercept the ball. Obviously, he got turned over because of the Cowboys' stupid penalties. But you've seen progress and flashes of the Trevon Diggs that they signed. What you don't see and what you don't hear from him a lot of times is the accountability of it and him kind of taking ownership of, I haven't been great. I need to be a leader. I need to do these things. And not even him saying it, but him doing it. And you keep hearing from Ryan Schottenheimer and from Jerry, we need him to be this guy. And he's just not that guy.
Yeah, he said this week, too, like he wishes they were playing more man-to-man, which obviously is more his game, right?
Man, he'd get burned in that, too.
Well, you know, all things being equal, it's a tough position to play, and you're not going to win every single battle. But
unless you're Pat
I think with the corners that they have, that makes a lot of sense. But can they do that with the safeties that they have, with the linebackers that they have? I mean, I think they're having to cover up for a lot of different things and a lot of shortcomings, but it's obviously exacerbated when the communication hasn't been where it needs to be.
It definitely seems like there's an air of toxicity around that situation. And at a certain point,
fair.
It's at a certain point, there has to be some addition by subtraction. And if you're going to continue to progress on defense, is it worth paying this guy $21 million a year to keep pounding the table for? I know you're telling me to stop because it's getting picked up. Is it worth continuing to pay him that, and when you're not getting exactly what you want out of the relationship, I guess? No.
All right, never mind. But, like, everybody's not a leader, right? Is it okay to get paid a ton of money and not be a leader?
Not to Jerry Jones.
But let's say, like, in football, on a football team. Because, you know, some guys just, they can't lead, right? They're great players, but they can't lead. Is that what we have here?
I think generally speaking that when you give somebody a mega deal, like I think obviously Trevon is getting, there is an expectation. But usually when you get that mega deal, it's because you've shown you have the ability to also bring others along as well.
Yeah.
So I don't know exactly if that was the case going in when Jerry gave them or gave Trevon that deal, but I think especially when you have a salary cap, Bob, that generally is the expectation, that it can't be just about the guy that you're on the field. You're paying the guy because you want him to represent, and you think he's going to represent your team in more ways than just playing ball.
And Jerry has said
in the
that
locker
much.
room, all that stuff.
Jerry has said that much time and time again, that when they give somebody a big contract, that they expect those guys to be the leaders in the locker room. And a couple of them are. I mean, Zach Martin always was. Dak Prescott is. CD has shown more of that ever since he got paid. You see that from some of the guys on the Cowboys. You just don't see that from Trevon Diggs. So, anything else, Bob, before we move on?
Sorry, I was just curious.
I appreciate the question.
Curiosity killed the cat, you know.
All right, I'm going to do this real quick before we get to high school football. I'm going to do a quick postmortem on our Major League Baseball picks. I didn't put a super in there for this, Luis. So we all made picks, or Chuck and I made picks before the season. We both picked the Rangers and Astros win total. It was both at 86.5. I picked the under on the Rangers and over on the Astros. I was 1-1. You picked the over on both. You were 0-0.
At least I was relevant till the final week of the season on both of them.
AL West, we both picked the Mariners, so top notch there. Good for us. We both said, I went back and listened to the segment. We both said that there was their pitching staff was too good not to win the division. As long as they just hit a little bit more, and Cal Raleigh hurt us. So the big dumper,
yes, he did,
dumped some homers all over the stadium there. We both picked the Royals. I picked the Red Sox. You picked the Orioles to win the division there. You wanted to pick the Blue Jays, but you thought with your head instead of your heart, and I guess you should have gone with your heart on that one. As far as the NL goes, so we were at, 1-3 there? NL goes, I had the Dodgers, Reds, and Braves to win their. I wasn't too far off with the Reds,
That's right.
but the Brewers is who you picked. So You got that one
Rogan
right.
watches right twice a day. As
You
they
got
say.
the Brewers, the Phillies, and then you guessed the Padres. You have the Dodgers winning the World Series. I still have the Red Sox winning the World Series. So we weren't too far off, but we weren't good. Definitely weren't accurate.
Well, we weren't.
We both thought
Like
the
we
Royals
didn't
were
take
going
the
to be
Rockies to win it
Yeah.
all.
We both thought the Royals were going to be a lot better than they were.
Yes.
And so
and they were
at least
pretty good up until the last couple of weeks of the season.
At least we didn't pick the Twins. So, all right, let's get some high school football here. So, TNL top 10 for week 6. District battles are heating up at the halfway point of the season. We have TNL week 6 tonight as well. That's going to be the Gucci Bowl. We'll get to that in just a second, but I'm going to race through some of these TNL top 10 teams as they currently sit. So, Harlan 4-0, 2-0 in district. They defeated O'Connor 55-7 1 week after they beat Brennan to really take a stranglehold on that district right now. They've got, I'm not going to say it's easy for the last 6 weeks of the season, but they definitely got over their biggest hurdle in Brennan a couple of weeks ago.
I went to the Harlan game last week, and my observations were, boy, these guys are impressive. The one caveat was, I don't feel like they're hitting on all cylinders.
Yeah.
Yet. Like they're a tick slower than where they're going to be by season's end. If they ever get to where it's like, they're going to be really, really a tough out. There was a college recruiter there, and he said, I'm looking at 6 of their guys.
Yeah, you can't.
G. Ivory is legit back there running the ball.
I hope he ends up going to UTSA. You can't forget that these guys made it to the 4th round of the playoffs last year and lost to the eventual 6A champs. Like Vandegrift beat them in a game that wasn't as lopsided as the final score indicated. And they finally broke into the Associated Press top 25 of 6A teams in the state.
Wow.
So
Cool.
they are number 25 this year or this week. Johnson is 4-0, 1-0 in district. They defeated Brandeis 45-28 last week. They're number 2 in our TNL top 10 poll. They play Roosevelt tomorrow at Comelander. They've now won 13 straight regular season games. New Braunfels is number 3 in our TNL top 10, 5-0, 2-0 in district. They have allowed 10 points in their 2 district games so far. They beat Victoria East 42-3. They have a bye this week. So New Braunfels, that whole district up there with New Braunfels, Smithson Valley, Piper is just, it's a killer of a district. Smithson Valley, speaking of them, they beat Piper this year. They lost to Piper last year. That was one of their 2 losses last season, even though they went on to win the state title. They lost to Piper last year, which is that kind of Comal County rivalry ever since Piper came to be. They defeated them 27-17. They're 4-1, 2-0 in district. They have a bye this week. They are the 3rd ranked team in the Associated Press 5A D1 state rankings right now. So Smithson Valley still doing their thing.
Yeah.
The Brennan Bears, number 5 in the TNL top 10 poll. They are 3-1, 1-1 in district. As we said, they lost to Harlan. Then they had a bye to kind of lick their wounds after that loss. They play O'Connor this week or tonight actually in kind of a get right game, I would say. The Bears have they've had 2 weeks to chew on that loss. Now they are going to try and make a run in the district. They haven't lost to the Panthers, the O'Connor Panthers, since 2019. Steele is number 6 in our TNL top 10 poll. We see them next week in the Judson Steele game on TNL. That'll be really, really fun to do and see. They're 4-1, 1-0 in district. They beat Clemens last week 48-20, and that Clemens team is no joke. We saw them 2 weeks ago against
Very
Alamo
talented.
Heights. So they play East Central this week. East Central just lost to Judson. So you don't really know what to think of East Central after they lost Isaiah Mackey and a lot of their talent from last season. But Coach Hubbard always has those guys.
Yeah, I mean, and they've lost some really, really close games. That Judson game ended up going to overtime. Clark won a squeaker against them. So they've been toe-to-toe with a lot of really good teams. It just hasn't translated early on in the season to getting wins.
The Knights are 13-0 all-time against East Central. Let's get to Clark. Clark is number 7 in our TNL top 10 poll. We'll talk about them a little bit more in just a little bit. They beat Lee last week 42-0. They're 4-0, having the best start to their season since 2009 when they made the 4th round of the playoffs and went like 13-3, I think is what it was, what it ended up being, something like that. Southwest Legacy, surprisingly, number 8 in our TNL top 10 poll. They are 5-0, 3-0 in district. They beat Laredo Figueroa 57-18 last week. That was a week could have been a little bit of a letdown. They were coming off a big win over Jay 17-16 2 weeks ago. Next week they play Laredo Nixon. It's all setting up for the I think it's the Fire and Armor Bowl is what they call it, in 2 weeks against Southwest, which is
Dude,
going to be a banger.
It is. I got to figure out what's going on with Southwest Legacy. I haven't seen them, but you beat Jay. You obviously the record speaks for itself, but you beat Jay and you shut them down like they did on defense, and then you see what they were able to do last week against Figueroa. I mean, man, something special's going on there. We may want to get on that bandwagon right now.
Yeah, Southwest is who they're going to play in a couple of weeks. That could very well decide the district title in 2 weeks in the Fire and Armor Bowl. They had a bye last week. They play Southside tomorrow, 7:30 at Southside. The Dragons put their 16-game district winning streak on the line tomorrow. So that's a significant win streak for Coach Franco down there.
Yeah, he just keeps winning. That's all he does. Just
Surprising,
wins a lot of games.
Surprising results of last week was Bernie defeated Alamo Heights 37-35 in the first district game of the year. That is Alamo Heights and Coach Ritteman's first district loss since he became the coach in 2019.
I didn't realize that.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah. It's insane.
Hats off to Bernie.
Hats off to Bernie, who we all left for dead after Shea Hendricks and Hank Hendricks left to go to Arkansas. We were like, yeah, Bernie's there to take a step back with a new coach. Hell no. They are right in this thing. And the only loss that they had was to 7 points to Piper, who's a very good team still as well in week 1. So, I mean, Bernie is no joke. And they break it into the TNL top 10 this week. They're 4-1, 1-0 in district. They're number 10. And that's the TNL top 10 this week. So let's get to the Gucci Bowl. Gucci Bowl, Churchill versus Clark, named after the poshness, I will say, of the two teams in the 80s. Those were the two. What is that signal?
Highfalutin.
Yeah, highfalutin.
Yeah.
That's the Don Harris team of the 80s. Don went there and graduated in 83, right? When did you graduate?
Yeah, 82.
82.
Yep.
So he's a year behind you, is that right?
Yes.
Okay, so Madison, class of 82, by the way.
Yes. Shout out Mavs.
Shout out Mavs.
Big win last week for them.
So this
Coach
game has been played ever since 1984. Churchill leads the all-time series 25-17-2. Clark is on their best start since 2009. This game typically had led off the season. This was the season opener for many, many years. And then now they've kind of moved it to the first game of district or second game of district for these two teams. And now they're in different districts as well. So that might have something to do with it. Matchup 38-19. But it should be, I think a lot of people are going to look at this and say Clark's going to win because Churchill's a little bit down this year. But this is always a game that draws a lot of eyeballs.
Without a doubt. I mean, it's a rivalry that's been ingrained in both of these programs' history. And, it's one of those, you're a kid playing at either one of these schools and that schedule comes out, man, you got this one circled. And it's even cooler now because it wasn't always a district game, right? That's something that's new to the proceedings. And, you got a new coach at Churchill and Coach Shaw, who cut his teeth with the Brennans.
With the Brennans.
So, I kind of feel a little bad for him. His team is really banged up, dude. They got 8 starters out, 9 guys out that play. So they're kind of mixing and matching right now. They had a plan with some of their underclassmen to keep them together as much as they could, grow them up on the JV level, and then turn them loose at the varsity level. They just don't have that luxury right now. So they're pulling guys up. And, he's really proud of his kids for what they're giving him every week, but it's really hard. I mean, you got a new defense, you got a new offense, you got a new coach. Everybody's trying to learn new things, and then you've got all these moving parts. Now, on the Clark side of the ball, they kind of went through these growing pains last year. They had a younger team, still made the playoffs last year. So this is kind of like been the plan of J.L. Geist was to really be rolling this year. And I think, he probably said it better than I could have, which is in this league, that Northeast League 27-6A, there's not a team in this league he doesn't think that they can't beat.
Including Johnson.
There's not a team in this league he doesn't think they could lose to, too. So it's mad respect, top to bottom, as it should be in that district. And he knows they're going to be in for a hell of a fight tonight.
Let's hear from Coach Geist.
Coach, this is 7th year here. Obviously, this is a tradition that goes way back all the way back to the 1980s. But when I say the Gucci Bowl to a coach, what does it mean?
it's a big game for both communities. Like you said, it's been going on for way back into the 80s. When I got here, it was still the first game, the Gucci Bowl. Now it's kind of transitioned a little bit now that we're district opponents. And Gucci Bowl for us still has some meaning to both communities in terms of the traditional game and the traditional rivalry. But it's got more than that to us now, and we try to really focus on the fact that this is a district game, and we really need that district win. It's more than just the rivalry.
4-0 to start the season. What is working so well for this team right now?
We've been growing as the season goes on in terms of what we do. We're getting better. There's always things that we need to work on after every game. I let the guys know, hey, we'll celebrate this, and then we'll go back to work. And that's kind of been what we've been about for the past several weeks is, okay, let's work on what we need to work on. Let's get better at this, and let's go take it out onto the field.
Coach Geist, nice off the field, and then once that ball's kicked off, it's one of those coaches that I'm just trying to get out of the way of on the sidelines. I'm just like, I do not want to mess with you, my friend.
Yeah, the thing I like about Coach Geist, so there are many things, but when you ask him, like, hey, man, I need 3 keys to victory, he's like, okay, well, I can give you like 10 for offense, 10 for defense, 10 for special teams, 10 for, how we're going to get on the bus. Literally everything is broken down, and they've got little markers that they try to hit week to week, month to month, all these little check boxes these check marks that they want to hit all the boxes on. And I think it's kind of cool that everything is kind of spelled out, right? Everybody kind of knows what direction that we're going. And it's really that meticulous in terms of game planning and where they want to go and the roadmap that he provides every single week.
Yeah, and as for Coach Shaw, he's doing his best over there in his second year at Churchill. Obviously, he's dealing with a lot of injuries, but let's hear from him and what this Gucci Bowl and his second iteration means to him.
Good thing is you guys kind of still have the whole season in front of you. 6 district games left, starting out with Clark. What are you expecting this week as you take the field tomorrow night against Clark?
Yeah, same thing. Long season left, like you said, 6 games left, but all we can worry about is this one and take care of today, win today. Not necessarily getting so caught up in who wins that game or who wins this game, but focusing on what we can controlling the controllables, and that's for us, giving great effort, having a good attitude, and playing with good character.
We're finishing.
What kind of juice does that bring? What is the prep for that week like? Is it any different than any normal week because of the rivalry?
Yeah, we'd like to say it's just another game, but obviously for this community, it's for the Churchill community. I'm assuming for the Clark community, it's a big deal. The kids have a little bit of extra juice about them in meetings, and they're a little bit more attentive in meetings because I think not only is it just that we're playing Clark and it's the Gucci Bowl, but there are some good players over there that we got to kind of zero in on and try and take those things away from their offense and from their defense and special teams to come work and win.
Yeah, and Coach Shaw has a not special place in my heart, but I really like Coach Shaw because I've done some stories over there the last couple of years, and he's always been readily available and welcomed me in and let me get footage that made stories a lot better. So I love Coach Shaw. He's always been really great to us. He's been great this entire week. He's been great over the last couple of years. And I hope tonight that we get a great, great crowd, because one of my favorite times on TNL was when we had the Gucci Bowl a couple of years ago, and it went down to like the last 3 minutes of the game, and the crowds were just battling back and forth, and it was so much fun.
Yeah, Coach Shaw, he's sturdy, man. I mean, good dude, solid, another guy that's very meticulous in what he wants to do. A little edgy, which I think you need, right, when you're trying to lead and guide young men. And ultimately, he knows the bigger picture, that's the end game here, is we're trying to make future citizens, not just football players.
Absolutely. So it should be a really good game tonight. Join us tonight, CWSA, 7 o'clock, or come out to Ferris Stadium and see us make fools of myself on the sideline as I typically do.
Come to Ferris Stadium and watch on your phone.
Yeah, exactly. Do both. Come to Ferris and bring another phone. Bring 2
Bring multiple phones.
Bring 2 phones. Luis is
Drive
telling me to hurry up,
those
but I have to
numbers.
tell people to bring their phones.
Luis has got to go. Luis, you got a hot date?
Luis has
Okay.
has another eye appointment. He can't even see us at this point. That's all we got for you today on the Sneakers Cleats podcast. Remember, download, rate, review, give us a 5-star rating, tell a friend, tell an enemy. We'll be back on Monday to recap the weekend. See you then.